Okay, because we're going to draw. You need a pen and some paper and to write. Because before we do anything, we're going to look at this and we're going to draw it and we're going to write it down. Okay, so I'm just going to talk about hoof mapping, anatomical mapping. There is such a thing. So I'm just going to describe to you the whole TACT trim by drawing. I will do a demonstration, because you have to know what I've been doing for the bevel, and I want you to know the reasons behind everything that I do. There is a reason, and all of this is open to change, like so. We're just going to draw a frog in it. For a while, if you've been watching my videos, you know that I was measuring the dorsal wall and then taking the hoof down to whatever. But I don't do that no more. Okay, what I do now kind of takes care of that to a degree. There's a reason why you don't want to do that exactly how I was doing it. That has to do with what happens when hoof wall jams up, and it can be longer here, but the sole is still very thin. And so I found out what you have to do is you have to bevel in such a way as to allow it room to drop down. And that's what'll straighten out a lot of inconsistencies you have here with your growth lines and everything. Okay, first thing I always do, and you're not always going to be able to do this, okay, but you really do want to clean the feet, and you do want to take pictures, because it's going to teach you as you do it. Once you understand and know the true foot, then you're going to, and the things that I've been telling you, like about the stretched periopal on the back of the foot and things like that. And sometimes it's not just periopal, but you'll see it right here. You'll see it just kind of widen weird like that. See, you see now on this nice foot, you see how even though he didn't have the best foot form, because no humans had touched his heels, he still has this really even area where the coronary band groove was, and really even hoof wall growth and even growth line. So, you know, he was doing okay. He was taking care of himself. The first thing you want to do is wash the foot and take pictures. And I think even you can get, so you don't have to do all the mapping all the time, but what I found out about this mapping, and each step was something I figured out how to do, trying to figure out how to trim this foot to look like, you know, to form fit the inner foot. Each step I learned at a different time over a period of 10 years. One day I was out here, I don't know how long ago it was, maybe 8, 9, 10 months ago. I don't remember. I just remember going, you know what? I think I'll take all these steps that I have learned and I'm going to put them all together, and I'm just going to do them and see how that works out for me. So I put all the steps that I had developed. This was after learning about the heel buttress and everything. I put all these steps together and I started doing them. And I was really amazed at how it was like it took on a life of its own and started teaching me how to trim. Little system, for some reason or other, at least for me, and I'm hoping and believing it will do it for you too, that as you apply it exactly like I'm going to show you, that it's going to start showing you how to trim your horse's feet. And it's going to start showing you, it seems real simple, but it just starts doing this. And that's not to say that you got to use your own mind too. But all these things I'm telling you, whether you know it or not, they have gone into your brain. Our brains work in such a way, when we have a problem, our brain wants to figure it out. It just works on autopilot there, trying to figure out things. Has to do with survival, I guess. All right, so you washed your foot and you've taken pictures, and now you're going to map the foot. Now, if the foot is long like this, what you're going to want to do is just nip it down or rasp it down just almost to the level of the sole so that you can get in there. It all begins and ends with this thing here, the frog. So it all begins and ends with the frog. The first thing you do after you've washed the feet and taken pictures and taken off any excess like that, you want to find the true apex of the frog. And it's good, you can trim your frog up right then. Frog, you want your frog to be about that thick. And when your heels are low, the frog cannot grow. Okay, so this is all about frog health. The frog does so much. It's the braking. It's like the anti-lock braking system. It takes a lot of the pounding away from the sensitive structures of the inner foot. And I'm sure there's other things. You know, it's kind of where the rubber meets the road, as the commercial used to say. We have to have a healthy frog. You do not want a petrified frog. I've looked at some of the pictures of the feet, and because people have been told not to trim frogs, the frog that they do have gets petrified. Well, then it's going to quit growing. Then it's not going to be pliable. It has to be somewhat pliable to work correctly. If it's totally petrified and hardened, it's not going to cushion the digital cushion that is underneath the frog corium, the digital cushion underneath the frog corium here. If you allow this to just petrify, you know, you want this to be a little bit pliable, and you want it to continue growing, because it's like anything else. If this gets petrified or in a real unhealthy state, it just quits growing. All right. So you want it to keep renewing itself. That's why you need to learn to trim the frog. You need to learn to trim out the central sulcus and make a central sulcus, so all this will keep growing and renewing and stay rubbery. Okay, everybody's ridden a bike, right? And you know the brakes, those little rubber things that are on those little brakes that go like that? You know what happens when those just dry out, or a tire dries out, or rubber for being used like that just totally dries out? It doesn't work like it's supposed to, right? There's a reason why this is like rubber: for cushioning, support, and for a braking system and traction. By trimming the frog, you stimulate it, you keep it fresh so that it'll keep growing. You get rid of all the dead stuff, and you know, and again, the central sulcus, that is the place where people just never trim out. You kind of have to start forming it. So you want to trim up your frog. Now, the frog has boundaries, and if your frog here grows over too much this way, it will lay into the bar and push the bar over. Okay, so you got to remember, in fact, it can push the heels out. I have a horse where I let it do that. It just pushed his heels. They went straight out like that. And then when I finally started trimming off this part of the frog and really bringing it over, his heels started to come back in. You know, a horse's heels can be pushed out just as much as they can be pulled in. And it's all due to the frog. If you get deep central sulcus thrush, the horse does not want to put his foot down. The heels contract. If you allow the frog to grow too thick, and if you are trimming the heels out at the same time, that frog corium's being pulled forward and it's spreading out, and it'll push the heels out. You see this in draft horses a lot. People think that's normal. That is not the normal draft horse foot. I want an anatomically correct frog. You know, they think they want a nice wide frog because they've trimmed the heels out of the, I'm answering Anne's statement here. She said a lot of trimmers want a wide frog. Well, that's because they think that's anatomically correct, because they've trimmed so many of the heels out of these horses. When you trim the heels out and all this moves forward, it pushes this wider. See, it's going to push that wider, so it goes out like that. See, I can't do it right here, but it'll push this frog corium wide like that. So they think they want a wide frog, but that's just because they've got a distorted foot, and that's all they've ever seen is a distorted foot. This just happens, central sulcus thrush, all that. So start growing your heels, start cleaning up your frog, learn to trim your frog good, and you get that healthy frog, and keep it in its boundary. All right, now, once you have trimmed your frog up, you're going to take your protractor and you're going to mark right here and back here. And you're going to draw a line down the center of the foot like that. This is so you will trim your toe correctly and get all the parts of the foot in the correct location. You're going to have to find the true apex of the frog, and by doing that, you're going to have to trim off the end of your frog and find out where the frog and the sole blend together. This frog can stretch clear up to here. Then you're going to come in here. You're going to put that on. Let's say that's our true apex right there. Now, if the foot is flared like this, I'm going to come in here. You see, I want you to draw a line here and a line here and put it up to these lines. See how I've lined this line up with that so that I draw a straight line across the toe. Right here, where my true apex was, I'm going to line my lines up again, and I'm going to draw a line straight across there. Then I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to go about 1.5 inches to right here. I'm going to line my lines up again. I'm going to do that. Now, what do I have here? Here's my toe. This is where I bring my toe back to, and this is where my white line should be. Now, if I have a flared toe and my white line is clear up here, what I'm going to do is when I bring the breakover back, I'm not going to rasp down, and you have to learn the difference. Let's say this is your foot upside down. Rasping back is going that way. This is the rasp here. You rasp back. Rasping down is rasping that way and holding your rasp like that. You see that? If I had a flared toe and this is where my white line should be, then I would rasp clear through that, clear back to there. And you can do that. This is your toe and where the breakover in your toe is. This is your pillar or toe quarter. This is your quarter, and this is your heel. Okay, and each part, these lines here, tell you where the parts of the hoof wall really are, and they tell you you're going to rasp a different way on each part of this, and there is a reason for that. Okay, now your bars. You can either do your heels next or your bars. Usually I do my heels next. We're going to do this. Okay, this is your heel here. Okay, you see the heel buttress right here? Okay, what you do, you're going to draw a line all the way down, and you're going to take this and you're going to measure 2 inches. Now, I roll it. 2 inches. Measure twice, cut once. You might want to color code these. I got to go to that black mark there. Okay, so I'm going to go out here. Okay, so basically 2 inches on this heel is right here. See there? Okay, so I would do the heels, and then I'm going to do the frog. Okay, on the sides of the frog right here. Okay, lay your protractor up against it and into the heel and draw a line. Okay, now your bar, which goes from here to here, you're going to want to trim right along that line there. So see, I would lay that up right there. See that? Now, I will also, at the same time, come in here and I will measure just to see how long my dorsal wall is right there. Okay, and hers were 3 inches, and for her, by the time everything was said and done, I would want her to be at least 3 1/4 to give her some sole. She doesn't have much sole in there, you see that? But that's also because she didn't have any enough heel. The heels were not restored enough to her to really correct this foot and give her some sole. Look at the way the foot is shaped. This is why we measure the dorsal wall. It goes down this way from the hairline, and it goes up that way. It is shorter, okay, shorter. It is, look how long it is there. By the time you get over here, it's shorter. Do you see that? So if your wall is 3 inches here and it's 3 inches here, that's not going to be uniform. 2 inches over, which is right here, is about 1/4 of an inch shorter from here to here, so that it follows the shape of the internal foot. See the shape of the internal foot? Most hooves do not follow the shape of the internal foot. They get long here and high in the pillars and in the sides of the toe. So this is just another way you can keep track of your toe, by the sides of your toe, by measuring. You know, if this is 3¼ inches and this is 3½ inches, or even 3¼ I've got distortion here on the side and the wall is too long. It's really hard, not once you learn the shape of the foot. Okay, but what happens is when these sides grow out, they grow up and over, and it makes the foot more round like that. Now, just like you have a break over here, okay, that foot has to be able to roll over without putting a lot of torque on the internal toe, right? Well, the horse just doesn't go forward. You know, the horse just doesn't go, let's see, forward, you know, like that, right? Horse just doesn't walk like that. Okay, now if a toe is no longer than that, you want to have more sole though, as I said, but this horse would, as she gained more depth in the heel, she would gain more depth in the toe. Okay, well, a horse breaks over to the side too. They turn like that. So you've got breakover around the whole foot. So any flaring or any wall that's grown too long and too far forward is going to create a lever on the sides of the foot. Now, a lot of times a horse doesn't want to turn that direction. You know, he might not want to take a lead because he's got a big, high, long pillar here that's sticking out like a lever. And when he goes to go like that, that lever catches and causes pain on his foot. Did I say from the apex of the frog forward? This is just a general measurement. Smaller horses will probably be a little shorter, and bigger horses might be 1/4 inch longer. This is general for your general size saddle horses. You're going to have to tweak it and use some common sense, and as you learn it, you'll get better at it and you'll get it figured out. You see this here? This is sole. Okay, so if you don't keep your bar in alignment and over to here, what's going to happen? It's going to grow up and lay over on the sole in your heel and choke the sole out in your heel. This is 1 1/2 inch from when you find the true apex. Now, if you allow your frog to get too long, say even 1/4 inch, you're going to do your toe too long. It's very important to find the true apex of the frogging to get your toe correct. That's the only thing I measure, that and the heel. And the heels are from right where the hairs start to go up. Like if you push a ruler under there, you'll run into the hairs and you push them up. So right there where the hairs start, okay, I measure down the heel. See the heel buttress here? I draw a straight line clear up to there. See that? And if it's not 2 inches, I leave it. I don't trim anything off. If it is 2 inches, I keep it down. And, you know, once the foot gets all together, it might wind up being 1 inch and 3/4. But I try to grow 2 inches from here to here. What if your heels are trimmed out though, and the periopal is stretched from here to here, and you got 2 inches of periopal? Okay, then you got to measure your heels a different way. Then, if you know you ain't got no heel really, even though it looks like you do, see, this is what has really screwed some people up on these horses, is they see that stretched periopal and they think their horse has a lot of heel. You know, because it's this wide back there. So then they're continuing to take down heel. Well, what you do then is when you're restoring the heel, you're not measuring from the hairline here. You measure from the bottom of the collateral groove, and you are just measuring from here to here. And you want at least 1 inch from the bottom of the collateral groove up that way. Now, see what she had? Can't see on this. She was getting close to 1 inch, but her heels still weren't correct yet. But it's this part you measure. See, that's why these heels are so deceiving. If you trim out one heel more than another, it can be bent forward more. If you have a heel that is more run forward, the wall is gonna be at a lower angle, so that side of the foot is gonna go lower. If anything, if your heel is run forward, it's gonna be lower. Let's say this heel's more upright and this heel's run forward. The heel that is more upright, they could be the same length, but they could be a different height. Do you understand that concept there? That because of the wall, see, length and height. If the heel is run forward, it's not going to have as much height. If it's back like this side's going to be higher. Okay? So let's say I have them the same length. They're both at 2 inches. Okay? But one is more upright. This side of the foot's going to be lower because this heel's run forward. The angle is lower. And so sometimes I'll take the upright heel down a tad more than the run forward heel. And a lot of times it's not that the heel is as much run forward as it is you have trimmed the heel out on that side. See, this is why you use this. Because what happens is with just using your eyes, you're not getting the toe correct. And you wind up having one side, you start trimming it to the side. You take one heel down further, you trim the toe cockwise, and you're kind of twisting the whole foot. So what we're doing is we're kind of trying to bring all that back. Our eyes are not square. I mean, I think as you practice this more, your eyes will get square, but our eyes are not square. I will, again, measure the dorsal wall. I want to make sure this side is at least 1/4 inch shorter, which usually by the time I get done doing this trim here, as I'll show you, usually it's down like that. Now you have to remember that the toe is not round. This is a back foot, by the way. It's more ovalish, more spadish. That is the mapping. It's pretty simple. But what and I have some videos I'm going to try and get together for you. I've been doing this and taking videos of it. And I'll show you in the next session how I rasp this all down a specific way for a specific purpose. Now I'm going to show you something. Okay, now remember, this blue line here, that's the 1.5 inches, right? Okay. You see the true apex of her frog. Okay, you see where her white line ends? The apex of the frog of this foot would have been right there. And you see how that allows for sole. This was a bigger footed horse, but they're all relatively the same from here to here. There is not a lot of difference. But again, if you have a huge horse, add 1/4 inch for a while. See how you're coming out. Because another thing you're going to want to look at. Okay, it's not just here. The foot is not one-dimensional. It's this way and that way. So what you're going to be doing, a lot of times you're going to be sighting down the foot here too and looking at the wall. Is the wall straight? Or does it kind of go whoop like that? If it's doing this number, you know that you have not been taking the toe back enough here. So see, do you still measure a mark for coffin bone? No, I don't, because I'm measuring for more than coffin bone. I'm measuring clear out to where the white line would be. So I got coffin bone. Now this is shriveled up on here, see? But if this was still alive, that sole corium would be sticking out to about there. All right. So this was a pretty big footed horse. He wore like a size 2, would be about like so. This is so shriveled up. I'm trying to find. Okay, right here was where the true apex of his frog about would be. Do you see where the 2 inches is there in front of there? That's at least 1/4 inch for some sole corium and then some more for some sole. Let's look at this. Okay, right there is where the true apex of the frog would be, right there. Okay, now you see that the end of the coffin bone is about 3/4 inch. Add that. Some sole corium, you're going to get a little over 1 inch, and then you're going to get up to 1/2 inch for some sole to grow in there. Here's another foot I did. This foot, I packed it in salt and borax, and it dried out. And look, it's like I should be making mummies. You know, it doesn't stink. It's like it cured it and turned it into leather. These are off the same horse. I would leave the heel, but like my lateral heel is usually run forward because I trimmed it out more, and then the wall pulled out. See, this is what happened. You trim out the heels and the walls have no stability, and so they'll flare out. Okay? Because there's nothing holding that. So it just, the wall pushes forward, pushes the wall out. And so on the other side that is more upright, sometimes I might take it a little shorter just to kind of balance that hoof out, you know, until I'm trying to get this other side back